My parents always favor my brother. My wife, bless her heart, knew that and married me without them paying a dime for the wedding. But when my brother's fiancée demanded a $50,000 wedding, a new car, and a down payment on a condo, my parents expected me to help foot the bill. I refused. They scraped the money together from God knows where. I didn't say a word. I just went to the courthouse, legally changed my last name to my wife's, and did the same for our daughter. My parents went ballistic, calling me a traitor to the family. I just smiled. Brandon can take care of you in your old age. Don't come looking for me. A man who joins his wife's family can't afford to make his in-laws unhappy. Eventually, my brother kicked them out. They ended up living under a highway overpass and died on the street. When I got home from work to find my parents sitting on the sofa, casually eating fruit from our kitchen. They hadn't set foot in our house since our daughter was born. The excuse back then was, "We're getting too old for this. We don't have the energy to help with a baby, and besides, it's not our job." Ever since, the only time they called was when they needed money. I'm not an ATM. I'd send a gift for Christmas and their birthdays, but I wasn't handing out cash on demand. I had a wife and child to support. There was nothing extra to give. Yesterday, my mom called again. She asked for 50 grand, just like that. I said no. I guess that's why they were sitting in my living room today. I felt a familiar mix of resignation and exhaustion. It had been this way my whole life. My mom forced a smile. "Your brother is getting married, and his fiancé's family is asking for a big wedding, $50,000. You're the older brother, so you need to figure out a way to pull it together." When Chloe and I got married, they didn't want to contribute a single cent. Before Chloe's family could even mention a budget, my parents were already shouting, "What is this, the dark ages? Asking for money for a wedding? Are you selling your daughter?" If Chloe and I hadn't been so solid, if she hadn't known the kind of man I was, we would have been done right then and there. I hated them for that. Too, I looked at them, a smirk playing on my lips. What is this, the dark ages? Asking for money? Sounds like they're selling their daughter. You should go raise hell. Their faces fell. My dad grabbed a mug from the coffee table and hurled it at me. It hit my chest with a dull thud, splashing hot tea all over my shirt. The scalding liquid only made the chill in my heart grow colder. Chloe rushed out of the bedroom, seeing me soaked and stunned, her eyes filled with pain and fury. "What the hell are you doing? How dare you attack my husband? I have had it with you people." I looked at her and smiled, a genuine, happy smile. My wife and daughter were all I needed. These people were nothing. Chloe shot me a glare, muttering, "You idiot," under her breath. My mother scoffed. "Who do you think you are? You don't get a say in this." She can insult me all day, but not my wife. My voice turned to ice. This is my wife's house. Her name is the only one on the deed. So how about you tell me why she doesn't get a say? With a family like mine, I had to give her every sense of security I could. I couldn't let her down. My dad raised his hand to slap me. "Are you stupid? This house belongs to the Miller family. Your mother and I came here today to tell you to pack your things. Your brother needs a place to live after he's married. This will be his house." I couldn't help it. I laughed out loud. Chloe and I had scrimped and saved for 8 years, stretching every single dollar, just to finally have a home of our own. And now they want to just take it. "Let me be perfectly clear," I said, my voice dangerously calm. "You're getting no money, and you're not getting the house. Now get out. I don't want to see you again." My dad's hand swung through the air. This time I dodged it. "Chloe, call the police. Tell them, we have trespassers." She saw the look in my eyes, nodded, and stepped aside to make the call. My mother's eyes were filled with venom. "Ethan Miller, I am your mother. What's wrong with asking you for some money in a house? I raised you for decades. We earned this. And if you don't give it to us," she added, her voice rising, "we'll die before we leave." A cold smile touched my lips. "So if you die, you'll leave? How about we all die together? Sound good?" The look in my eyes must have terrified her, because she took a step back. For a split second, I meant it. I wanted to die with them, just to be done with it. A family like this. I didn't want it anymore. I'd give them back the life they gave me. An eye for an eye. My dad grabbed an apple from the coffee table and threw it. "Ethan, are you insane? We just need to use your house. You're the older brother. Can't you do something for your little brother for once? Do you want to see him single for the rest of his life?" I was done listening to them. Their favoritism was a lifelong refrain. I was used to it, but I refused to let Chloe suffer for it anymore. Her family was much better off than mine. Not that I had any family resources to speak of. She was an only child, raised with love and support her whole life. I decided right then I would sell the house, and we would move to her hometown. We'd buy a place near her parents. She deserved to be happy. A few minutes later, the police arrived with a couple of guys from building security in tow. My mom immediately collapsed onto the floor, wailing, "Oh, the injustice! Is there no decency left in the world? Kicked out of my own son's house. I might as well just die right here." She had a real flair for the dramatic. She missed her calling in theater. I explained the situation to the officer. He looked tired. "This is a domestic dispute, so we can only mediate. However, building management has the right to remove non-residents from the property." A clever glint appeared in Chloe's eyes. As the homeowner, she had that right. A moment later, the two security guards returned with 6 more. They started escorting my parents toward the door. My mother's voice echoed down the hall, a stream of curses aimed at me. I nodded along. "You're right. I'm a shameless monster. I was raised by wolves. The entire Miller family can drop dead for all I care." She stared daggers at me, ready to make another scene, but the guards gripped her arms tighter and hustled her out of the building. After they were gone, my daughter emerged from her bedroom, clutching a doll. Tears streamed down her face. "Daddy, those people are mean. I don't like them." I knelt and pulled her into a hug. "It's okay, sweetie. Don't cry. Daddy's going to take you and Mommy away from here." With my daughter in my arms, I told Chloe my plan. Sell the house, quit our jobs, and move back to her hometown to start over. Chloe's eyes were red. "Honey, are you sure? They're your parents. Can you really leave them behind?" "Can I? I already had. My wife and daughter were my whole world now. Where they were, that's where I would be." After I graduated from middle school, my parents made me get a job to support the family. They said my grades were terrible, so more school would be a waste of money. The truth was my mom took on tons of piecework from local factories, forcing me to help her assemble trinkets late into the night. I never had time to study. Of course, my grades were bad. Later, I worked on an assembly line while teaching myself everything I could. I clawed my way up from a line worker to a management position. It took everything I had. Meanwhile, my brother Brandon never worked a day in his life. His grades were just as bad as mine, but they used the money I earned to pay for tutors and send him to third-rate state school. Parents that played favorites like that, I want to be done with them for a long time. The next day, we listed the house with a realtor. We both quit our jobs. With my wife and daughter, I drove to my in-laws' house. When they heard we were moving there for good, they were overjoyed. My father-in-law clapped me on the shoulder. "Don't you worry. Everything's taken care of. If they dare show their faces here, I'll show them what's what." Within a week, Chloe and I both had new jobs lined up, and our daughter was settling in her new preschool. Just as things were starting to look up, my mom called. "Ethan, why aren't you at the office?" They had actually gone to my old job. To demand money, no doubt. A bitter taste filled my mouth. "If you have something to say, say it. I am Busse." My voice was flat, the way you talk to a stranger. I used to be such a fool. Every dollar I earned, I gave to my parents. They told me they were saving it for my wedding. But when the time came, they wouldn't give me a penny. They wouldn't even host a reception dinner. They'd done the math and decided it would cost them money and be too much work. It wasn't worth it. That's when I finally understood. I wasn't a son to them. I was an ATM. After we got married, they demanded that Chloe and I hand over our paychecks. I refused. They called me an ungrateful bastard. I still refused. They sicked a bunch of relatives on us to talk some sense into me. I didn't give in. I gave every cent I earned to my wife. I had lost the first half of my life to them, but I wouldn't let my wife lose hers. The day she stood by my side against them was the day I swore I would never, ever fail her. Your father and I did some calculations. You two must have saved at least $70,000 over the last few years. Your brother needs it for his wedding. Wire the money to my account. As soon as she has a baby, I'll get it back from her." My mother said it so matter-of-factly, without a hint of shame. I didn't believe a word she said. "I don't have any money to lend. And even if I did, I wouldn't give it to you. Remember what you told me? We don't have any money. If you want to get married, figure it out yourself. Why are things so different for Brandon? There's favoritism, and then there's this. Ethan Miller, do you hear yourself? I gave you life. You will do as I say. If you don't, I'll ruin your reputation." She was screaming now, every word a threat. Thank God I had already left. Otherwise, this would be a nightmare. They were my parents. I couldn't just fight back. My voice was cold. I've given you everything I owed you. I'm not in your debt anymore. And I already quit my job. Your threats mean nothing. If I just stayed quiet, they'd never find me. My mom got desperate. She started cursing me, my wife, even my daughter. We weren't family to her. We were enemies. Her plan had been to go to my office and force my hand, maybe even get an advance on my salary. My old company was surprisingly understanding about things like that. They had it all figured out. Too bad for them. I knew them too well. A little while later, my dad called. Ethan, you sold the house? You sold it without even telling us? Are you trying to kill us? Here we go again. I was so sick of it. They hadn't contributed a single dollar to that house. What right did they have to say anything about us selling it? Did they really think that just because I was their son, everything I had was theirs? What century were they living in? I replied without emotion. The house belongs to my wife. We can sell it if we want. If you hadn't been harassing us, I'd still be at my job, and we'd still have the house. This was on them. Ethan, are you trying to give your mother and me a heart attack? Don't you understand who your real family is? Chloe's last name is Davis. She's an outsider. We are your family. I knew exactly who cared for me. I knew exactly who I was going to spend the rest of my life with. My eyes were wide open. When I didn't respond, my dad's voice softened. Son, find an excuse to get that money from her. Get it in cash and bring it home. We need you. He was unbelievable. Every word out his mouth was a trap. I laughed. Brandon's getting married. He can figure out his own finances. Don't come to me. You won't get a penny. His voice turned sharp and angry on the other end. He's your brother. If you don't help him, who will? Just consider a loan from me to you. How about that? The same old line. I could recite in my sleep. Any money that went into their hands was gone forever. Brandon's a college graduate. Why is he letting his fiancée demand a car, a condo, and a huge wedding budget? Shouldn't she be the one bringing something to the table? Does she look down on him or something? Brandon went to some third-rate state school and only got in on an art scholarship. He didn't learn much in college, but he sure mastered partying. My words hit a nerve with my dad. He said coldly, "What do you know? The plan is to just get her to the altar. Once she has a kid, she'll do whatever we say." You don't understand anything, he continued. You're not half as smart as your brother. Bring the money home tomorrow. We need it now. I was disgusted. The whole thing was a sham. The marriage was doomed before it even started. I had refused them over and over, but it was like they couldn't hear me. I was done talking. I hung up and blocked his number. I had recorded the last part of the call, the part about their scheme. I opened up WhatsApp, found the family group chat, and got the contact info for Brandon's fiancée. I sent her a friend request. After she accepted, I sent her the audio file. A family like that? I hope she would think twice. A few minutes later, she replied, I know. Thanks, Ethan. I sighed, typing back that she should really consider her options. Honestly, there were plenty of fish in the sea. She didn't need to waste her life on a guy like Brandon. As a man, I could see he was unreliable and not worth marrying. I thought she might back out, but then she sent another message. Don't worry. I won't let myself get taken advantage of. It seemed like she knew what she was doing. That was a relief. Anyone who had the nerve to demand a car, a condo, and a pile of cash probably wasn't going to be a pushover. The next day, my parents couldn't get through to my phone, so they started calling Chloe. The second she answered, they laid into her with a torrent of abuse. So Chloe blocked them, too. That evening, we were all watching a movie when my mother-in-law's phone rang. They had tracked down her number. My mother-in-law put it on speaker. Hello, is Ethan and his wife staying with you? She glanced at us. I shook my head frantically. It wasn't time to reveal our location yet. I wanted them to sweat. My mother-in-law replied coolly, No, why? Can't you reach them? Their phones seem to be working. Did you two do something awful to make them want to avoid you? 11, I gave her a thumbs up. You have to fight fire with fire. My mother-in-law had never liked my parents, not since the whole wedding fiasco. If Chloe hadn't insisted, she never would have let me marry her daughter. My mom stammered for a second, then cleared her throat. The reception must be bad. We're all family. I was just worried something might have happened to them. My mother-in-law rolled her eyes. They're grown adults. What could have happened? By the way, I heard your future daughter-in-law is demanding a car, a condo, and a $50,000 wedding. The voice on the other end of the line faltered. That's not true. You know our situation. Where we get that kind of money? We just need to borrow a house for the wedding. As long as no one says anything, she'll never know. My mother-in-law shot me a worried look. I knew she was thinking about Chloe, about what she had married into. Have you no shame? She said, her voice dripping with contempt. That's fraud. You should be honest about your situation. If the girl still wants to marry him, fine. But a marriage built on lies won't last. She was being diplomatic. She could have said much worse. My mother, however, was shameless. That's none of your business. Once she's married into the Miller family, she won't be able to leave so easily. Now, put Ethan on the phone. Tell him to come home. That was it. My mother-in-law stood up, her voice booming. Come home to what? With parents like you, what could possibly come of him going back? People like you get what they deserve in the end. Mark my words, you can't get away with treating people like this. 12 after that, my mom started screaming insults. My mother-in-law, who had been biting her tongue for years, let her have it right back. They yelled at each other for a full 2 hours before finally hanging up. It was probably a good thing they were miles apart. Otherwise, it would have come to blows. I quickly brought my mother-in-law a glass of water. Mom here, you must be thirsty. She glared at me. If it wasn't for my daughter, I never would have agreed to this marriage. Your parents and your brother. They're just awful people. I nodded meekly. She wasn't wrong. Seeing my compliant attitude, she just huffed and dropped the subject. Over the next few days, relatives kept calling me. I blocked them one by one, without a second thought. Somehow, my parents managed to scrape the money together. I heard they got a new car and condo, and paid the 50 grand. The wedding was set for the 2nd of next month. Brandon sent me a text. Bro, no matter what, we're still family. You have to come to my wedding. I wasn't going to go, but then I remembered the swarm of gossipy relatives who would love the drama. Besides, I needed to get my name off the family records. My daughter's legal documents still tied us to them. This was the perfect opportunity to settle everything. If they were giving everything to Brandon, then he could be the one to take care of them in their old age. On the 1st of the month, I drove back to my old hometown with my family. My in-laws came with us. They were worried we'd get pushed around. Our first stop was the county clerk's office. I had all the paperwork ready, and the name change process was surprisingly quick. When I walked out with the official certificate, the way my in-laws looked at me changed completely. They were all smiles, calling me son over and over again. I had never seen that kind of warmth on my own parents' faces. I held my daughter in one arm and my wife's hand with the other, my in-laws walking beside us. We were laughing and talking, the picture of a happy family. I knew my parents' house would be crawling with relatives, so I booked us rooms at a hotel. We'd head over in the morning for the ceremony. I was waiting in the lobby for everyone to go out for dinner. And then I saw him, my dear brother. He had his arm around a woman who was trying to hide her face, but I could smell the booze on both of them from across the lobby. They were leaning on each other, looking very cozy. I recognized the woman. It was Rick's wife from next door. Rick was a local tough guy who was out of town a lot. I couldn't believe Brandon was messing with her. Did he have a death wish? I immediately pulled out my phone and started recording. This was gold. I made sure to get a clear shot of both their faces as they stumbled toward the elevator. Watching the elevator doors close behind them, a cold smile spread across my face. They better not mess with me. If they did, Rick would be getting a very interesting video message. We were in the middle of a great steak dinner when my mom called. I had just unblocked her number today, and she was already calling. After a moment's hesitation, I answered. Son, why aren't you here yet? We need your help. Come home right away. Her voice was sweet, almost syrupy. I'd never heard her sound like that before. Micah told me something was wrong. Very wrong. We'll be there in the morning, with my in-laws, I said coolly. The reception is at a venue anyway. How busy can you be? I could hear her taking deep breaths on the other end. Son, the house is full of relatives. You're one of the hosts. You need to be here to greet everyone. What did I have to do with those relatives? I had legally left the family. I was no host, and they had never treated me like one. I knew exactly what would happen. The crowd of relatives would corner me and pressure me to give money for Brandon's wedding. Nice try. When I got married, my brother, in a grand gesture of fraternal love, wrote me an IOU. It said, since I'm still in college and don't have a job, I'll give my brother $5,000 as a wedding gift. I'll pay you back when I start working. He'd been working for years and hadn't paid me a cent. This time I brought the IOU with me, tucked inside a wedding card. You probably thought I'd never actually cash it in. A way to look good without spending a dime. I took a sip of the cold beer my wife handed me, and my mood improved. I'm not the host. Brandon is. Let him greet them. He's the college graduate. It'll make him look good. Besides, Brandon was probably a little busy at the moment, fooling around the night before his wedding. What a guy. Why are you being so stubborn? I'm begging you, son. Please, don't embarrass me. All the relatives are asking where you are. What am I supposed to say? My mother had never used the word beg in her life. This was definitely a trap. I was on high alert. Just then, my cousin sent me a text. Ethan, whatever you do not come to the house. They're all waiting for you. Your mom wants them to pressure you into co-signing for the loan she took out for the wedding. She wants you to pay them back. So that was it. No wonder she was so desperate. I thanked my cousin, then spoke into the phone, my voice like ice. I said I'll be there for the ceremony tomorrow. If you keep this up, I'm turning around and driving home right now. She tried a few more times, but after confirming I would be there the next day, she hung up. Was this really my mother? How could she treat her two sons so differently? I just couldn't understand it. Well, I told my in-laws. They were just as baffled. We talked it over and decided we needed to get a DNA sample tomorrow. I needed to know for sure. We had to go to Brandon's wedding. 16 the next day, we slept in, had a leisurely breakfast, and then casually strolled over to my parents' house. It was a 2-story suburban home that I had helped pay for. From the age of 16 until I got married at 25, every dollar I earned went to them. I calculated it once. It was over $60,000. And yet, for my wedding, they didn't give me a penny. For Brandon's wedding, they had mortgaged the house and borrowed heavily from relatives. They had truly given him their all. Chloe gently squeezed my hand. Honey, you still have me. I nodded, giving her a reassuring look. As we approached, a crowd of relatives spotted us and immediately called my parents out. My mother glanced at Chloe and her parents, her smile painfully fake. Welcome, welcome. I didn't realize you'd be coming. My mother-in-law crossed her arms. Of course we came. We had to see the kind of daughter-in-law you'd spend a fortune on, a car, a condo, and 50 grand. Your younger son must be quite a catch to have a whole family turn out for him. My mom's face darkened, but she couldn't come up with a retort. After a long pause, she finally mumbled, "What do you know? Her father is a government official. She deserves a little more." Brandon had been a middle school art teacher for 5 years, making maybe $40,000 a year. Why would a woman from a family like that marry him? Something was fishy. I hoped my parents wouldn't end up regretting this. My mother-in-law looked at her with disdain. Fine by me. As long as my daughter and son-in-law don't have to pay for it, you can do whatever you want. My mom grunted and tried to pull me aside. I shook her hand off. I have to stay with my in-laws. They're not from around here. They might feel out of place. 17, seriously. I was an idiot. What could she possibly have to say that didn't involve money? I wasn't giving her a dime. Her face immediately turned cold. Ethan Miller, don't make me hit you on your brother's wedding day. I stare back at her, unflinching. Go ahead. It wouldn't be the first time. Let everyone see what kind of person you really are. I'm not afraid of being embarrassed. It's not my wedding, after all. Her hand trembled as she pointed at me, sputtering. As I turned away, I quickly plucked a few strands of hair from her shoulder and slipped them into my pocket. Then I walked away with a smile. When you stop caring what they think, they lose all their power. I rejoined my wife's side. Chloe looked worried. Are you okay? Did she yell at you again? I shook my head and lifted our daughter into my arms. Don't worry. They won't dare make a big scene today, and I won't let them push us around ever again. My father-in-law shot me a stern look. You better not let us down. I knew he was just worried about Chloe. Before long, a group of relatives descended on us, steering us toward the gift table. My parents were truly shameless. My uncle, my dad's older brother, was manning the gift registry. He held up a credit card machine with a grin. You're the big brother, kid. You can't be cheap for your little brother's wedding. Was that card machine just for me? Too bad they were in for a disappointment. 18, I looked at the circle of relatives surrounding me. Were they afraid I was going to make a run for it? I pulled the wedding card from my pocket. A gift from my brother from when I got married. Now that he's getting married, I thought I'd return it to him. My uncle took the card and opened it. He read the IOU out loud. The relatives around us fell silent. My uncle cleared his throat. Come on, Ethan. No matter what, he's your brother. You should give him a proper gift. The others chimed in, telling me to be the bigger person, that I should give at least $5,000 or $6,000. I remained calm. "You're Brandon's uncle," I said, looking directly at my uncle. "How much did you give? Was it more than the 5,000 he owes me?" My uncle immediately looked away, pretending he hadn't heard. I turned to the other relatives. They all laughed awkwardly and dispersed. When their own money was on the line, no one wanted to be a hero. My gift, or lack thereof, didn't really affect them. I smiled at my uncle. "Go on, write down 5,000. You're holding the IOU." He handed the car back to me. "I can't accept this. Why don't you give it to your mother directly?" He sighed. "What if they don't honor the IOU? Then the book says 5,000, and I'm on the hook for it." He had a point. I knew what my parents were like. I took the card and put it back in my pocket. There was no way I was giving them any cash. As I walked away, I heard my uncle mutter, "I don't know. Ethan seems different." Of course I was different. If I hadn't changed, my family would have been eaten alive by now. 19 at 11:30, the groom's party returned. But the bride wouldn't get out of the car. She said they hadn't paid the door opening fee. Brandon pleaded with her. "Honey, we don't do that here." She wouldn't listen, stubbornly refusing to budge. Finally, Brandon scraped together $1,200 in cash and handed it to her. My mother's face was as dark as thunder. Her hands were clenched into fists. If it weren't for all the guests, she would have exploded. This was what happened when you didn't sort out the details beforehand. Brandon tried to give the bride a piggyback ride into the house, but halfway there, he stumbled and they both went down. He face-planted right on the pavement. "Nicole, couldn't you have lost some weight for the wedding? You're so heavy. How am I supposed to carry you?" I knew the real reason. He was exhausted from his escapade last night, and now he was blaming the bride. Unbelievable. Before Nicole could say a word, her family swarmed Brandon and started roughing him up right there in front of everyone. My parents were stunned and tried to get our relatives to intervene. But Brandon still ended up with a black eye and a split lip. "I'm telling you now," one of her relatives, a huge guy, snarled. "If the Miller family ever mistreats my cousin, you'll have to answer to me." Our relatives backed down, muttering meekly. The bride's family were all built like linebackers. It wasn't a fair fight. Brandon wiped away a tear, knelt, and struggled to lift his bride onto his back again. I saw a flicker of malice in his eyes. This marriage was going to be interesting. The rest of the ceremony went smoothly. They didn't even bother me again. I found Brandon and handed him the wedding card. "Here, this is yours." He took it without opening it. I wondered what his face would look like when he finally saw what was inside. I sent my parents' hair samples off for a DNA test. Whether they were my biological parents or not didn't really matter anymore. It was just for me for an answer. We were barely on the highway when Brandon called. "Ethan, what the hell was that? You come to my wedding, eat our food, bring your entire family, and you don't even give a real gift? Have you no shame?" "Shame? After everything I contributed to that family, they begrudged me one meal? Wasn't that your IOU?" I asked, feigning confusion. "I thought I was just returning it to you. And don't think I don't know where the money for your car and condo came from. How can you accept all that, knowing how much they favor you, and still sleep at night?" He started it. I was just finishing it. "What? Were mom and dad bad to you?" Brandon shot back. "They raised you. They gave you an education. And this is how you repay them? You have money, and you won't even help them. You're the older brother. It's your duty to take care of them in their old age. They educated me. If I hadn't worked my ass off while studying on my own, I'd still be on an assembly line somewhere." His logic was so twisted it was almost impressive. Was I supposed to help pay back the money they'd borrowed, too? In the back seat, my in-laws were fuming. If my wife hadn't been holding her back, my mother-in-law would have let him have it. "You're right. They weren't good to me," I said calmly. "They made me get a job after middle school to support the family. For my wedding, they gave me nothing. For yours, they borrowed from everyone they knew. They don't see me as a son, so why should I see them as parents? You're the baby of the family, their favorite. You can take care of them." 21 Brandon wasn't having it. "No way. We're both their sons. We have to support them together. They don't have any money for food right now. You need to wire them $10,000 immediately." My mother-in-law couldn't hold back any longer. She yelled into the phone, "Is this how the Miller family operates? You want money? Fine. Come to our house and try to get it." Chloe tried to shush her, but she shook her head free. "You shameless punks. Ethan is part of the Davis family now. If you ever try to bully him again, I swear I'll knock your teeth out." A wave of warmth washed over me. I smiled at my mother-in-law. She patted my shoulder. You're my son. No one gets to bully my son. My father-in-law nodded in agreement. He wasn't a man of many words, but he could throw a punch. Brandon was stunned. What are you talking about? He's a miller. He has to support his parents. You just wait. I'll ruin his name in this town. Before my mother-in-law could reply, I cut in. Brandon, I've already legally changed my last name to Davis. So has my daughter. I'm a Davis now. I don't have much to do with the Miller family anymore. The only reason I came back was to finalize the paperwork. Attending your wedding was just a side trip. Plus, I got that video of him cheating. All in all, a productive trip. Brandon was speechless. His voice trembled. How could you? How could you become a part of their family without our permission? Do you know what people will say? You don't even have the family records. How did you change your name? 22. What people would say. I couldn't care less. I had a real family now. I was happy. Why would I need your permission? Did you ask for my permission when you took their money for your car and condo? You went to college, Brandon. Don't you know you can request a copy of your own record from the county? From now on, you can take good care of mom and dad. I've joined my wife's family. I can't be responsible for them anymore. I have my own parents to look after now. He was screaming on the other end of the line. You wish, Ethan. No matter what you do, you're still their son. You still have to take care of them. I knew that legally, but it wouldn't be on their terms. It would be on the courts. I'd heard that with 2 sons, the contribution was usually a few hundred a month per child. I could afford that. As for the loans they took out, they were on their own. Calm down, I said coolly. I'll wait for the court order. If it says I owe $300, I'm not paying $5. Brandon slammed the phone down. I grinned. I'm in a good mood, I said to my wife. How about we go out for a nice dinner when we get back? Yes, everyone cheered. That night, I sent a video I'd taken of Brandon's new wife, Nicole. I also told her who the other woman was, and since I happened to have her husband Rick's contact info, I passed that along as well. Nicole didn't say much. She just sent me a wire transfer for $10,000. The memo read, a gift. She said it was money she'd gotten from Brandon and that I deserved a cut. I accepted it. She was right. 23. A few weeks later, my cousin messaged me. Apparently, Brandon's wife beat him up daily. My parents were heartbroken and got into a huge fight with her. But Brandon turned on them, blaming them for interfering, and kicked them out of the house. Everyone in town was laughing at him, but he didn't dare fight back. He just took the beatings. I knew why. Nicole had leverage over him. It was my wedding gift to him. I hoped he was enjoying it. On Friday, I came home from work to find my parents sitting on the couch, their faces grim. They found us. I glanced at them and said nothing. A few days ago, the DNA test results had come back. I wasn't their biological son. Suddenly, everything made sense. When my wife and her family saw the report, they pulled me even closer. I felt more like a part of their family than ever before. My dad stood up. Ethan, have you learned your lesson? If you come home with us today, we can forget any of this ever happened. Oh, I had learned my lesson. I learned I should have gotten that DNA test years ago instead of doubting my own sanity. Because of him. No, thanks. I've legally joined this family now. This is my home. My dad grabbed a glass from the end table and threw it at me. 24. This time, I was ready and dodged it easily. My father-in-law came out of the kitchen. What do you think you're doing? This is my house. That's my son. You don't get to abuse him here. My adoptive father was furious. He's my son. I can hit him if I want to. Who the hell are you to stop me? My adoptive mother got up and stood beside him, glaring at me with cold, empty eyes. My wife and mother-in-law rushed to my side. It was 4 against 2. We weren't scared. I said calmly, Am I really your son? Are you sure about that? Do you want me to show you the DNA test results? Their eyes darted away. My adoptive mother looked up defiant. So what? We raised you for decades. You owe us. You have to take care of us. I laughed. A real, liberating laugh. I knew what kind of people they were. I'd known for years. My wife squeezed my hand, her eyes full of concern. I smiled at her, letting her know I was okay. Brandon will take care of you. Don't come looking for me. A man who joins his wife's family can't afford to make his in-laws unhappy. My adoptive father raised his hand to hit me, but my father-in-law blocked him. I smiled. By the way, if you ever bother me again, I'm calling the police. I'll tell them you kidnapped me as a child. I'll make sure you end up in prison. It was a bluff. I had no proof, but I didn't care. My life was good now. I had no desire to find my birth parents. What if they were just as bad? They left, cursing me under their breath. I didn't give them a cent. 25 a year later, Brandon was sued by Rick. But that was just the beginning. Soon after, he was charged with murder. It turned out Nicole had married him to get revenge for her cousin, who had died years earlier. The cousin was Brandon's ex-girlfriend. She had lent him $25,000 to invest in the stock market. When the market crashed and he lost most of it, he didn't want to pay her back. He took her hiking and pushed her off a cliff. Brandon had covered his tracks well. If it wasn't for the daily beatings from his wife, which drove him deeper into drinking and drugs, he never would have confessed one drunken night. That was all Nicole needed to find the evidence. He was arrested. My adoptive parents begged me to pay for a top lawyer to try and get him a lighter sentence. Not a chance. Brandon was the monster they had created. He deserved to be locked up. They tried to borrow money from friends and relatives, but no one would lend them anything. Instead, people started demanding they pay back what they already owed. They defaulted on the mortgage. The house in our old hometown was sold at auction for a fraction of its worth. For a while, they lived under a highway overpass. The car and condo they'd bought for Brandon were in Nicole's name. They couldn't touch them. They survived by collecting cans and bottles. Then they discovered that begging on the street was more lucrative. But a few days into their new career, they were targeted by a local gang who ran the territory. They demanded a cut of the earnings, 90%. My parents refused. They were beaten to death and left on the side of the road. As Brandon's only living relative, Nicole inherited everything. She certainly wasn't going to spend money to help him. She probably wished his sentence was longer. Brandon was sentenced to 15 years. 3 years into his sentence, he was found dead in a prison bathroom. I heard it was brutal.